You're listening to the 1 Minute Writing Tip, a podcast that gives you tips on how to overcome writer's block, overwhelm, and self-doubt, learn how to accomplish your God-given book idea, even if you're a busy mompreneur, confidently publish a bestseller, and use your book as a tool for impact and for purpose. We have a variety of episodes with interviews from best-selling authors in the industry, experts who have tools and tricks to help you succeed, and of course, recommendations from me, your host, Caitlin Silva. You can find even more resources on wewritebooks.com, where you can also take advantage of your complimentary bestseller assessment to get a step-by-step roadmap to accomplish your bestseller and beyond. So let's get into today's episode. Hey writers, and welcome back to the 1 Minute Writing Tip podcast. Today I am featuring an author guest, Clarissa Castillo-Ramsey, who is a multi-passionate creative entrepreneur who primarily works with creatives who want to lead the cubicle life in pursuit of the creative life, which is amazing. She's a relentless, tough love cheerleader for possibility. Her teaching and coaching style is the intersection of leadership development, creativity, and wellness. She is also the author of the book Painting Your Path, which has a guide and a journal, and she also has the Painting Your Path podcast and community. So Clarissa, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. I'm really excited to talk to you.
Thank you so much for having me, Caitlin.
So will you just share a little bit about your own journey of becoming a creative entrepreneur and creating the Painting Your Path, all the different things you do with that, and just, how you got to where you are today?
Sure. And I'll try to keep it brief because I have been on this planet for 51 years. So what I can share with you is that I have always been an artist. I've always had that creative piece of me, but I grew up in a household that was very practical. My parents came here from the Philippines. And so there was a lot of just wanting to make them proud and make them happy and do the right thing and be that good, dutiful daughter. So my lifetime has really just been a journey of that balance between doing what I feel is right for myself and right for others. And in that, the whole Painting Your Path came up because I was at a point in my life where I knew I needed to transition. And in my career, I have always pivoted every few years just to help me really find a profession that was in alignment with myself. And so that was through a lot of trial and error. And the book came about in I think the end of 2018 is when I decided to do it. And writing and publishing a book was always on my bucket list. And I think I was in my mid 40s at that time, mid to late 40s. And I knew I needed to transition, and I knew that I wanted to work for myself. So that is how the book came about. And it really was an interview, like an interview style book where I interviewed women who pursued their own paths, and I just learned from them. And that also helped give me the courage to finally make that shift. So that's kind of where the genesis of my transition to working for myself, it all started with that book.
Wow. I love that, because one of the things that I know is how much a book can be a healing and transformative experience. And you're living proof that just by pursuing doing that book, that it transformed your life. And I just love that you've had that outcome, and that you're now passionate about taking what you've learned and then helping others to transform their lives and pursue what their gifts and their talents are, and use that in a meaningful and productive way. And I think that's so amazing. So thank you for sharing that with me. Yeah. So I also love that you were reaching out and interviewing these people, and that you were gleaning their experience and their advice and then applying that to yourself. So can you talk a little bit more about like specifically what Painting Your Path is and just, what you're doing with that, and, what's to expect if someone is reading this book?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So, painting your path is really just about creating life on your terms because everybody's life is so different. All of our experiences, all of our knowledge is unique. And with the book, I highlighted just different women from different walks of life. And if anybody's interested in reading the book, there's 21 interviews with super extraordinary women. And so from the book, I created this. I really thought about my life and how did I get to achieve all these goals and these dreams that I've had. So at the end of the book, I distill that framework that I have used in my life. And it's what I use with my clients to help them. And that's also what the journal is about, is just to help people who, let's just say they want to try and just do self-exploration first before trying to work with anybody else. That journal is there to help guide them to just really think about what is their goal, what are their goals and dreams in life, and how can they pursue it and how can they achieve it.
Wow, okay. Yeah, that's really cool that that people can, you know, go on that area of discovery and use that journal to be like, what are those goals and dreams? What are those things that I want to pursue? And then, being able to actually do that, because, it's not just seeing the path, it's also actually pursuing it and developing it. And I guess, like you said, painting it. So I love that
Yes.
physical imagery too, as well, of just, going down that road and just seeing where it leads. So as you were going through the book writing process, it sounds like you had quite a different experience and approach in creating a book than maybe what most people would consider like writing a book. So what did that process look like for you?
Sure. So my background is I'm also an organizational psychologist. So I had to write a dissertation. And so I was kind of looking at my book through that lens of let me just be a curious investigator. And that's really how I went about writing this book, Painting Your Path. So basically, I knew that I wanted to interview people and kind of theme out like, what does it take to pursue a life on your own, of your own dreams? And so I just, thank goodness for social media. I just put it out there. Hey, I'm publishing a book. Who would like to be featured? I'm looking for different types of women who have overcome adversity and are living the life of their dreams. And that's honestly how I approached it.
Got it. Okay. So this book is more of a collaborative kind of experience where other women got to share their stories, and then you kind of put that together, and then also included like your own aspects of the book as well, and just kind of brought this together as a tool and a resource for people to be able to learn and grow and develop through reading it and through like being inspired and encouraged by these women's stories.
Absolutely.
Wow, that's really, really cool. So what would be so as we're like talking and we're thinking about painting your path and pursuing those dreams, if there's someone listening, and most of my listeners are, aspiring authors and in some capacity from different walks of life, and their big dream, they feel like creativity for them is in words on the page and in crafting those stories. And their big dream is pursuing becoming an author. So what would be your tips or your advice to them in taking those next steps forward?
Yes. So I think just the first thing is to really dream first. What is it that you want to write about? And just, I don't know about you, Caitlin, but I can tend to be in my head. And what I find very effective is just getting it all out on paper, just doing a brain dump of all your ideas. And then, so that's kind of like the more inspirational, like, what is it? What do you want to publish? And get it all out of your head. And then for practical tips is just setting aside time. So in order for me to write and publish my book, I had a full-time job and it was very demanding and I had to be at work by 8 o'clock. And work was like almost an hour away. So I had to use the time for me, and I'm a morning person. So I would work from 5 to 7 in like every day, Monday through Friday. And you don't need to do every day, but pick a time, a location, and just like set that intention to write. I call it, well, I learned this from James Clear, Atomic Habits, set an implementation intention. So maybe for your audience, it's okay, on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I'm going to set aside 30 minutes from 6 to 6:30 in the morning to just write. And I would say just write. Don't start editing yourself before you get it all out on paper. Let it be messy, let it be ugly, because that's what editing is for later on down the road. But at the beginning, I think a lot of times people cut themselves short because maybe they don't like what they see on the page and they're moving too quickly to edit mode when they should just be in fun flow kind of mode.
Yeah, absolutely. So many truths there. And I think a lot of times in our own heads, we like to overcomplicate things. And it's really just those simple steps that you implement. And it's just being dedicated and being committed and like, this is a priority to me, and doing exactly what you said, setting aside that intentional time and, doing it, right? Sitting down and not letting yourself make up excuses or justify not doing it or get distracted or whatever. It's like, no, this is the time that I'm setting aside.
Yes.
Just like work or just like other activities. This is writing time, and you take it seriously and you just do it. I think, yeah, so many good things there. So thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
So as you're continuing to, grow your community, and you're doing the Painting Your Path podcast, and you're doing your entrepreneurial journey, what are some things that are upcoming that you would like to talk about, or current things that you're doing?
Oh yeah, thank you so much for asking. So I do have another book percolating. So I am not exactly sure what that's going to be yet, but so I'm going to take my own advice and start brain dumping my ideas and narrowing it down. So that's a little bit, that's not immediate, but that's coming up probably in the next year. And I love to do events. And so I'm happy to share that in the fall, I'll be launching my summit, and it'll be called From Cubicle to Creative Life. And it's an online experience for anybody who considers himself a creative that's in a 9 to 5 that eventually wants to leave. The whole summit is geared for that person, just to help them on their journey. So that's coming up. And I always have workshops that I like to do. I have some vision board workshops because anytime is a great time to take a look at our goals. And if we need to reset and create a new vision. So I have a couple of those workshops also coming up.
Wow. Okay. So there sounds like there's a lot of opportunity to, get involved and grow and learn from what you're doing, which is really, really cool. So as you're talking about those upcoming things and those things that you're doing in your business, and for, anyone who's wanting to create that life, how can listeners connect with you and become part of what you're doing?
Sure. So I would say, listen to my podcast, Painting Your Path, where I also interview inspirational people like you, Caitlin. And I also share just what it's been like for me on that journey. And I think that is one of the best places that you can learn more about me.
Awesome. Yeah. So for all my listeners, if you do want to connect with Clarissa and learn more what she's doing, hear more from her, continue to be inspired by what she's teaching, then do check out her podcast, which is just Painting Your Path. Check out her community, check out her book, all the things. She has a Linktree link with Clarissa Castillo-Ramsey. I will put that in the description for you guys. So it's easy to just click on and go right over there and connect with all of her links. Clarissa, was there anything else that you wanted to share with us today or touch on before we head off the podcast?
Sure. You know what? I can share my framework with your audience in case they just want to get into action now. And I call it my painting your path framework. So the first step we kind of talked about a little bit already, which is to dream. And I don't think as adults, we take enough time to just sit back and really dream about how we want our life to be at its fullest, at its most joyous. I think we tend to put a cap on ourselves and say things like, that's not realistic. But in order to live life on your terms, the first piece is really to dream. What do you want your life to be like? So that's step one. Step two is to decide that you're worth it, your dream is worth it, and commit to it. So that's step number two. Step number three is to make a plan. And again, like you said earlier, Caitlin, I think we tend to overcomplicate things. What can you do? What can you start to do to bring this dream into a reality? Maybe you can do some research on a topic or connect with people who have done what you want to do. And just start planning out the steps that you can take, because no step is too small, no step is too big, but just to make a plan around it. And also make a plan for yourself of how you're going to take care of yourself, because in our pursuit to fulfill our dreams and our goals, we can also burn out. So I also like to tell my clients and remind myself to put a self-care plan together so that you're not overdoing it. It's so easy to burn out. So that's step three. Step four is all about being brave. And it's taking that uncomfortable action, whether it's writing and publishing your very first book, or painting your first art piece, or trying to get into a gallery, whatever it is. Take that brave step. You got a little bit of a plan. So take your next step and actually do something, and do it with all your heart, and just be open to whatever the outcome is. Don't be so attached to the outcome. And I know that's easier said than done, but trust me, if you can just have fun in your pursuit of your dream, it makes things just that much easier. And then after you have taken some steps, you've been brave, it's time to reflect, and it's time to take a look back and see what worked, what didn't work. And I think this is also another area where people, they don't want to do that. They just want to either keep going and just keep taking action without taking inventory of how things have been going. So take some time to reflect. And at the foundation is to have that growth mindset, have that mindset where anything is possible through time, effort, and getting the right feedback from the right people. You can achieve anything that you put your mind to. You truly can. And if you have that kind of mindset where you're just learning about yourself and continuing to take that uncomfortable action, you'll be surprised at how much you can accomplish, and actually how much you can accomplish in a short amount of time. So that's my framework.
Wow. Okay. What a treat. Thank you for sharing that with our listeners. I hope that they have some light bulbs going off and are thinking about some things they can do or shift, or just take those steps differently in order to, ultimately accomplish those results. So thank you again for sharing that. And thank you for joining me on the podcast. It's been really exciting and great to have you just sharing about, pursuing those dreams.
Thanks, Caitlin. It was a pleasure chatting with you.
Sure. So for all my listeners, thank you also for tuning in. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to like and leave a review below, and I will see you on the next episode.
Thanks so much for tuning in to the 1 Minute Writing Tip podcast. If you're craving a community of writers and a place where you can have regular accountability and be able to celebrate what you're accomplishing and just have that community support to reach your goals and continue to make that progress, I'd like to invite you to the Writers Club. It's a free Facebook group. You can go to facebook.com/groups/Writers Club membership. And I'd love to have you in there. There's additional training and resources for you as an author, and I can't wait to further connect and celebrate your book. Don't forget to like and comment below the episode, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.